Firefighter, pastor, two jobs that don't seem like they would line up well together. This guy made it work for almost 20 years. Today on Call to Lead, we have my pastor, my friend, Cody Nelson. All right, welcome to the Call to Lead podcast. This is our very first episode, and we are privileged to have with us Pastor Cody Nelson. Cody's the pastor of Seventh Main Baptist Church. He has almost 2 decades in the fire service. Recently left that to be full church, and so we're just gonna talk a little bit about how he balanced those things over the course of 2 decades. We'll talk a little bit about how he ended up in ministry, how he ended up in the fire service. Before we get into talking to Cody, I just want to give a little background as to how we know each other. So I feel like I've known Cody most of my life. My mom taught at school and had him and his wife both in class. And so I've known his family for a long time, most of my life probably. But about, I don't know, 20 years ago, 23 years ago now, when I first surrendered to ministry, when I felt called to ministry, there was a youth pastor from a little church out in the country who ended up being the person who counseled me the night I surrendered to ministry without knowing that we would be on staff together later. But that was 23 years ago. And Cody counseled me the night I surrendered to ministry. And then about 16 years ago, we went on a mission trip together to Del Rio. We got to know each other real well. And then our band went. I had a band at the time. We went to lead worship at some things they were doing and to help serve. And then from that time on, we talked at one point about me, him, and Kevin, another friend of ours, about quitting our churches because we're so fed up with church politics, about quitting and just starting our own church. That didn't happen, but about 6 months later, he started asking me about trying to, would you think about coming and serving on staff here? And I was like, not interested. Only to, after praying about it, end up here. I've been here 15 years, and Cody's been here longer than that, but I'll let him talk about that in a second. So when I first came here, I was looking for something else. I'd always been full-time. This is my first part-time church, and what should I do? And he said, go to fire school. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Lo and behold, I needed something else to pay the bills and went to fire school, and God's blessed me in it. And I would not have done that if he hadn't encouraged me to do it, because it had never crossed my mind ever. So thankful to him for that. Thankful to him for 15 years of friendship and ministry here, actually longer than that, but 15 years serving together. Again, he is our lead pastor here at Seventh Main Baptist Church. Cody, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your family, and how you end up in ministry and the fire service?
Well, a little bit about Christina. I've been married for 25 years. We have 2 boys, 21-year-old and 22-year-old. And so she asked me out, and she would have never asked me out. I could look at our family and go, well, I don't know that we would have a family because I would have never asked her out. She was an underclassman, and so I was a senior getting ready to graduate, and had been dating a girl for ever since 6th grade. We decided to go different directions. And 6 weeks later, she asked me out. We went to a sports banquet and dated for 5 years and then got married. And so we've been married 25 years, January 1st. So my wife is a very godly, very solid biblical foundation individual who basically is the quiet person behind the scene that does so much. And so both boys, one just graduated with a civil engineering degree from UT Tyler, who's now back in Tyler being a campus missionary. I've got one that will graduate this December with an epidemiology and a public health degree as well. And so very fortunate about the boys, the way they've been brought up. And so I'm very blessed in that area. Fire service was very interesting to come about for me. I spent several years working for Christina's dad doing construction, manual labor, swinging a hammer, and decided we started having kids and realized that I didn't have a retirement, didn't have insurance, didn't have nothing. And so I thought in order to provide for my kids, public servant was always in my family. My mom served as a deputy for the Fannin County Sheriff's Office. My dad was a reserve deputy and also served in the military. And so the public servant side was something that felt easy to go into and to follow up with. Christina was staying at home with the kids when they were small. And Mom ISD called her up and she got hired. And when she got hired, I said, I'm going to fire school and going to EMT school. And immediately started that journey, got hired in Bonham and went through paramedic school, went through paramedic school again. Uh,
I was there the second time.
Yes. National Registry, it was not my best friend, and I've really figured out how to take the National Registry at that time. And so, starting in 2005, my journey began in the fire service by school and going to HASCO, then fire school, or EMT school, and paramedic school. And so, my biggest thing on that was I was allowing a certification to define who I was, but also the partners that I had that were paramedics. I just felt like I was useless to them because I was just a driver who knew where the skinny pedal was on the right side, and that was it. And so from that, also being in the ministry, I've been in the ministry since 1997, taking my first church in Bells, Texas. And at that point, my wife said, I will never go to Bells, Texas. And so we began to pray about where we would end up, and we ended up in Masco Baptist Church, into where they ordained and licensed me as a minister, and began to serve in the area, and then went to Grayson County for a little bit, then come back to Telephone, all in the youth ministry. Then almost 20 years ago, my pastor at Telephone said, "Hey, 7th and Main needs someone to come fill in." I said, "Okay, what's your point?" I said, "I got the youth group. Our youth group was thriving. Christina was thriving in her Sunday school class. She wasn't teaching, but she was in a couple Sunday school classes and just loved every bit of that at Telephone. We had connections. I mean, this is how bad they wanted us. The house that we were supposed to move into at Telephone wasn't ready, so a family in the church rented a house for us until one of the church parsonages become ready. And so that was in 2003, because Landon was born in March and we went there in January. So had a great ministry there. But coming here, we didn't think anything about it. I come and preached one Sunday and left, and I was terrible. You can study so much, but it's all about presentation. And so the church bared through a 30-year-old coming to pastor. And so 6 weeks later, we got a phone call asking if we were interested in becoming pastor. And we said no, because we were comfortable. We liked where we were. The ministry was phenomenal. I mean, I had students. Now it's fun to watch some of those students, because some of them serve within our church here at 7th and Main. Some of them were serving off in West Texas and other areas. So it's just so cool to see what God was doing in our church group then, our youth group then. And we just didn't want to leave. We had, they knew our babies. They took care of our babies. We had both kids while we were there. So it was just a great connection. The boys were 2 and 3 when we come to 7th and Main. We dealt with 7th and Main probably 6 months. I told them no, then they called Christina. Christina goes, "That's Cody's decision. That's not mine." So I come to 2 different interviews without her, and they finally asked, "When is your wife going to come interview?" And I said, "I don't know that y'all want my wife to come interview." I said, "You're not interviewing my wife for the job. You're interviewing me for the job." And so we finally submitted, and Christina had come and interviewed. And one of the chair people of the committee asked her at the very end, "What is one thing you want, Christina, out of this?" And she goes, "I want 100% of the vote of the church." The gentleman laughed at her and said, "Honey, Jesus didn't have 100%. And this church history has never voted for someone 100%. So she goes, "Well, that's what I want. If it's not meant to be, we won't be here." We come and preach and give a call. Went to the nursery with our kids, and the gentleman come to her and said, "Hey, guess what? Y'all got 100%. So what's your answer?" And we both looked at each other, and she goes, "Well, I guess we can argue with that." And so that began our journey at 7th and Main Baptist Church. Transition wise, I was bivocationally throughout the whole process until August of last year.
So that's how you ended up here. Tell me your progression through the fire service, because I know you started off, you volunteered a little while while you were going to school and stuff, and then got hired at Bond. And tell us kind of what happened from there all the way through the end of your career, because it just ended about this time last year.
Well, got hired at Bonham. I'm very grateful for the time I spent in Bonham. I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, as a firefighter, EMT, then as a firefighter paramedic, it's you and an EMT, and you're out in the county. At that time, Bonham still had the county contract. And so you learn real quickly how to be a good paramedic, because you don't just have a 5-minute drive. And I can say that because I was one of those paramedics when I transitioned from Bonham to the city of Murphy, who had that 5-minute drive to a hospital. And so I learned a lot, and I was able to take that to the Metroplex. The only reason I left Bonham, to be honest with anybody and to be truthful, may hurt people's feelings. But I got a $25,000 pay raise going, spending 7.5 years at Bonham to going to be a rookie firefighter at 40 something years old in Murphy. Went from about 5,000 call department that was making 5,000 calls a year to a department that was making about 1,400 calls a year. So, I mean, just a total transition. I felt like my body wasn't able to hold up, but looking back, I can tell you the reason that transition from Bonham to Murphy was also because it was a very highly educated place. I was just a country boy, not much education, just paramedic school, no formal training at all. And so got there. Mark Lee was my fire chief there, and he pushed education, education, education. And he started me on the journey of, of getting certifications, leadership classes. He started me on that journey because he was a very well educated man. He was a former captain at Louisville who retired, then took over Murphy as a fire chief. So huge push. And then from there was a captain's position that popped up in Anna. And so I thought, man, what I had to lose? It was actually a decrease in pay. I mean, who would ever think that you're going from just a regular firefighter, feet on the ground, to a captain and going to lose money? And so it was about a $4,000 pay cut to go to Anna. But the future of where Anna was going, and by looking at the statistics and the way everything was coming up, 75 was just like going, man, this might be a good place to grow and to go. You know, my goal was I wanted to be a fire chief one day. That was my goal, not necessarily God's goal, but that was my goal of what I wanted to achieve was be a fire chief. Why, I don't know, but I think it's my personality more than anything. And so from there, I got the job at Anna. When I first got there, it was a captain and one firefighter, and the rest was volunteer that was covered the shifts 24 hours. So two paid guys is all it was, and then of course a fire chief and a fire marshal. Um, Anna exploded. The Walmart, I went in May. In April, the Walmart opened in Anna. That was the first major thing. And then after that, it exploded because the tax base was there and it began to grow. And so as it began to grow, guess what? More people was beginning to move in. The department began to explode. And then we began hiring more people. In the process, at our station, we were still, I would say, almost like a tire store. It was the original little fire station, but I mean, it served its purpose. But we also housed AMR in there with us as well. So we had two paramedics or two EMTs and ambulance guys, and then we had basically we're able to have a captain, a driver, and then two backseat guys. And then that grew to where you had a battalion chief, and then you had our own EMS at Anna, and then full engine crew. So promoted the three captains, went through a whole promotion process to be promoted to battalion chief. I think if everyone has an opportunity, I would always say driver is a good place to stop at. But I truly enjoyed my battalion chief position. But even at that position, it becomes very political. And it's all about your leadership and how you look at the leadership and the progression of leaderships. Did that for a while, and then of course, my project was helping get the EMS going, helping get the truck at Anna, helping get us in the first new station, and so I got to see a lot from the political side of it, the growth, and then City of Bells was looking for a part-time fire chief, and I go, okay, this is my perfect opportunity. The kids were off in college. Christina was home every third day by herself, and so it was one of those things I was wanting to go 8 to 5. I thought I might get a battalion training chief job, but didn't work out for me. Got out of the plans and other desires, which is probably best. And then got stuck into public works director at Bells, and then the city administrator left, and they asked me if I was interested, and moved into that position as city administrator, fire chief. And I think that's truly where God wanted me in the end, because one reason that I never went full time in the ministry is because I always said that I didn't want my family's livelihood into a group of people's hands. Well, as a city administrator, your livelihood is in the group of 5 that can vote you out in a heartbeat and or don't like you and want you out the door. And so anyhow, that really showed me God goes, okay, you don't want it in a group of people who love you and who care for you. Well, I'm going to put you in 5 people that don't care about you. And so So anyhow, I realized that it was best for me to leave because I wasn't a political person. And there was still a lot I had to learn in that position, and I just didn't have the time to learn it. And I think that was God setting me up to bring me full time to the church and to trust the people that He surrounded me with and the leadership team here, because the leadership team here is built on totally different characters. We're all different, and I think that was a design nature. My personality is not the same as the other folks on staff with us at all. I'm a type A, totally type A personality. I like to push buttons, but I have a person that likes to, come on, Cody, let's hope. That settles me down a lot and is more reasonable than me. So, and then I have an individual that has just been here for so long that knew the heartbeat of the church. And once we were able to put that together and put each person in their place, they cover each other's weakness. And to me, that's what truly God was doing through all of these steps in the fire and the EMS, to prepare me for truly what the vision, the strategy for the church is, because I couldn't have done that. And it was basically for me to get out of the way.
I think it's a good time to kind of transition because you were talking about the church um, wanting you to come full time. And tell us this. I remember my first Sunday. It was almost 16 years ago now. I think, if I remember right, there were about 46 or 50 or something people here that voted that day to bring me on staff at church. And there were the only kids. There's one kid, Brighton, and then your two boys. They were the only kids in the church. And then we had Connor was a year old and we came 16 now. And tell me, so you've been here 20 years?
20 years coming up.
So what was your first? I know you said that you had 100% vote, but how many people were in that 100%?
35 people.
35 people.
It's funny you look at that because you think 35 people. There were 17 committees for 35 people. Isn't that funny?
It is funny.
But
that's church, isn't it?
But that's church life. But that's the same way we are in the world, though. To create all these different groups. So let's focus on the task. But it was 35 people, and the average age was between 75, maybe late 70s or early 70s.
How many funerals did you do in your first 2 years?
First 18 months, I did 26 funerals.
God, I've heard you say that for 15 years, and it's still crazy to think about. So, just to put this in perspective, on Easter this year, we had 500, right at 500. We had 330, I think, this last week. And I don't ask every week about the numbers because I don't care that much. Being the youth pastor, I don't have to care that much about that kind of stuff. But it's just crazy for me because it feels like it's the same church. It's a lot of the same people. Some of those people who are 40, 50 that were here when I came, that 35 when you're here, are still here. A few of them are still here. But a lot of the people who are here, we've had people who've been here 10 years. It seems like they've always been here. But there's people that have been here 3 or 4 or 5 years. It seems like they've always been here. One of the things that's really, and we're going to talk about this more in a minute, but matter of fact, we'll just go ahead and talk about it. One of the things that I feel like really the last 5 years, God's really blessed our church. For 10 years, we transitioned to music and we moved to more contemporary and we did several things. But like this church has a worker's mentality. Like it's a servant mentality, and more so than any church. I've been on staff at 5 different churches in my ministry career. This one, 23 years. So that tells you what it is: 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 15 years. But this one, it seems like more of a servant-minded group of people who just really want to serve. Like they look for opportunities to serve. And the last 5 years, I think, like I said, God's really blessed us. But that's also around the time that we got really focused on missions. So let's talk about that a little bit, about kind of where that focus came from and how it's affected our church and the people here.
Okay, well, let's look at use the word servant. I think so many times we look at what is a servant. I mean, servant leadership. Let's look at that and dig in. I really truly thought servant leadership was my leadership style, but it wasn't. After taking all the wonderful tests and everything, I think a lot of people, especially in our church, they're looking for their leaders to get down in the ditches with them. We're going to stand up on the bank and just point fingers and tell them what to do? Or are we willing to get down there and get dirty? And I think our church seeing our leadership go on mission trips and get behind the scene and pick up trash and do all the things that some leaders will say is beneath them. Just because I wear a white shirt doesn't mean I can't get the white shirt dirty. Just because I wear a suit and tie doesn't mean I can't get the suit and tie dirty. And so I think that's helped the transition in the church to see that our staff, our elders, are not afraid to get down and work side by side. And I think that's to be commended by our staff for what they can do and they can serve. So, but yeah, I just think it's taken that long for the people to see the heart and the vision that we have for the church. I mean, there's so many things that can hinder and pull back a church and send it in a negative direction. And I think that boils down to your staff. Are you willing to get involved? You can preach it, you can teach it, but are you willing to get in and do it? Because we can stand in the pulpit every week and teach it, but are we willing to show them how to do that? And so I think that's been a huge success, but I 100% agree when we finally said, we're going to go outside the brick and the mortar and go take care and do ministry and do missions. That's when we've seen some of the biggest transition because what's happening is you're inviting these families and these individuals to go, whether it's a kid or a youth or an adult, you're inviting them to go on the mission and they're getting to see the heart. We're getting to see the heart of their leaders. And I think that's been a huge part of the growth more than anything. If God blesses us with the ability to build and move forward, which I mean, I think He would, I know He will. It's just a matter of timing. You'll see a lot of our church folks who are the servants, who are the hands and the feet that will get involved and help in any phase they can just to help us move forward to where we can meet the needs. I don't want to do two services at all. But the reality of it is, if we want to grow, we're going to have to do two services to meet that. And I think once our folks see that, they're going to help out any way that they can because they want us to get in the building quicker than anything else. And so, but that's all part of that service and getting involved and not being a leader that's just going to point a finger, but being a leader that's going to get down the dishes.
Yeah. One of the questions I was going to ask you was a funny ministry story, but I'm going to go ahead and just share a couple of things. Jump in where you want to. Um, so I remember about 10 years ago, we're both on duty. We were on the same shift for a while and at different departments. And I remember the church had decided to buy a playground, right? But it was going to cost, we spent, I don't know, we raised money for 20,000, whatever it was, 20 or 30,000. It was going to be like another 10, 15 grand at a shift. It was going to come on a flat truck. And so you had the idea of why don't we just load up a 3/4 ton truck? Let's just get a flatbed and let's go get it. So we left Sunday after church, 12 o'clock, 12:30, and we drove, I don't know, 12 hours, something like that. We got there about 2 in the morning to the town, the closest town, and we got a hotel room. And we got in the hotel room about 2 or 3 a.m. We slept for 4 hours. I think. Took a shower, slept, got at 7, so because the place opened at 8 and it was a little outside of town. We got there right when the gate opened. We loaded it up. We drove back, got home at 10 o'clock at night, only to get up at 5 to go to work. That's just one thing, because I mean, we've decided one someday, hey, let's redo the stage. Talked about it long enough, let's do it. So we gutted the whole stage. And I don't think we really thought about the fact that we had to have it done by the next Sunday. We had it gutted. Like then we had to go and lay extended it out 15 feet or something and put wings to the side of it, took down the whole loft and the wall surrounding the piano and organ because we were using a band at this point, rid of all that stuff. We installed lights and new speakers and all this stuff in a week. So I remember being up there on Saturday soldering wires like for the sound stuff. What were we thinking? And then this summer we had another project where it was like, all right, we got 3 days to get this portable building done so we can use it for Vacation Bible School. And I know those are funny things because we look back at what we think. But but I think the church sees that though, and sees, like you said, people who are willing to serve. And when you go on mission trips or camps or anything like that, where you're going to learn, grow, serve together, worship together, that's really where those relationships happen. Like you can come to church for an hour, 2 hours a week, and you don't get to know people. Like you can come and you can grow a little bit, hopefully, and you can worship with other believers, and that's important. But doing life together, spending a week together, or meeting each other during the week, or doing things like that together, is where relationship happens. And I think that's where real ministry happens because um, that's just when we're vulnerable like that and we open up to each other and we spend so much time together, like they can look at us like on the stage and think they've got it all together. They go spend a week with us and they're like, they don't have it all together. They're just like us, you know. They're dumb. You know what I mean? Like they can think that sometimes, and they may think that when we're on stage too. But they see that. But I think that has an endearing quality. You know, that just the realness, the fact that we're just like everybody else, even in a leadership position in the church or in any organization. You're just like everybody else. You're you're here to lead and you're here to serve, and you're going to mess up. You know, I think knowing that you will mess up and being okay with that, because of freedom that comes with that, of just acknowledging when everybody knows you, when you know everybody knows you and everybody loves you, you know that, and not loves you because you're awesome, but loves you because your brother or sister in Christ. They've committed to the church. They've committed to you to hold each other accountable, to build each other up, and encourage each other. That accountability that comes with that, that love that comes with that, like there's no pressure. You know? Like, and I remember early on in ministry feeling like I had to be perfect. And I remember I had secret sins, I had things going on in life that I did not want anybody to know about. And I felt like I couldn't share, couldn't open up, I couldn't talk to anybody about. And then only to find out when I was able, did finally open up, was able to talk about those things. Like it's a weight that just comes off. You know, like I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to. Jesus was perfect for me. I don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to act perfect either. Like, and people sometimes are more willing to open up and come to you when they know that you're not perfect. You know, like, hey, you screwed up too. Yeah, I did. How did you get through it? This is how God pulled me through it, and this is how He can do it for you too. So those are several different stories. We don't have time to go into more detail, probably. What's a funny ministry story that comes to mind? Something that you can think of that's come to mind.
I've been thinking about funny. The negative thing about me is I'm pretty serious all the time. I'm really not the adventurous person. But the funniest thing, I also put one of the biggest challenge was the opportunity when the petition was going around to get rid of Christina and I. I laugh at that. I mean, it's one of those things you go, what? It was just so stupid. And what it was, it boiled down to is that they thought they had a 30-year-old pastor they can manipulate. So we were 3 years into our ministry here, and they were getting this petition. And so I decided, hey, whoever brought the petition up, let's have this conversation. At that point, I didn't have anything to lose because I was still working in the fire department. So this was nothing that was going to lose my income. To me, it's funny just because people get on certain tracks in certain direction and they think, oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to take care of it. And so I look at that and go, that's how silly we are. And to me, that's hilarious to think about. Is going, okay, get your petition, but guess what? No one wanted to produce the petition. One reason I know is because someone told me, but no one wanted to have it because guess what? It's easier to do things behind the darkness than bring things open. So I find that very humorous. I wish I could tell a good baptism story and all that stuff, but I don't have anything like that. So.
Hey, I have something. You're talking about your boys earlier.
Oh yeah, they probably got one.
Well, tell me about Chief Bang.
I like bang drinks, and so Purple Haze.
I'm going to put a picture up. It'll be put
Yeah.
on when I edit it in.
And so they decided to go get the mascot, a lovely mascot at Bonham, and put my face in it. And so that was my cheap thing. Because
Well, and that's right when you became chief too. And Landon is very good. He's done a lot of our church. The boys are both funny, but Landon's very good at Photoshop and stuff like that. He's creative and does photography and stuff like that. So I remember him sending that out, and he's like Chief Bang. He misspelled Chief, and if you see it on the video, it's misspelled, but that might have been on purpose. Just make it funnier, but
they probably make fun of me because I can't pronounce stuff right half the
they
time.
give you a hard time.
Yes, they do.
It's not fair.
It's part of life. It keeps me going, I guess.
Well, so that's a good ministry story. What's one of the funniest fire department EMS stories?
Well, it's probably a little bit too much, but I always loved running on a pregnant lady and having the students check them for crowning. So I always enjoyed doing that.
I remember having a brand new medic with me named Cody, and I remember we went on a call, and I'd come in at night. I was working trade time on the back half, and I was thinking, I'll just go in. It's my station shift before I was coming in. I'll just go sleep all night to be fine. Well, 3 in the morning, tones drop for a pregnancy call. We get there, really nice neighborhood, really educated, well educated couple in their late 20s. And you can tell talking, they're just smart. They have good jobs. It's like, okay, how far along are you? She goes, I'm a week past my due date. I'm like, okay, this your first baby? Yeah. I was like, are you having contractions? Yeah. And I wasn't lead medic, but he was kind of just sitting there nervous. And I was like, okay. So we got, um, I started taking over the call. So I was like, I'm just going to run this call. It's middle of the night. I'll be here. I can finish the report in the morning when he goes home. So we load her up on the cot, pull her outside. As we load her up inside, I said, hey, tell me when your next set of contractions start. Because she's been having them for a couple hours. Woke her up. I said, okay, tell me when the next one starts. What time? So we load her up. We strap her in. We get her in the cot. And as we shut the doors, she's like, I'm having another set now. But she had one in the house when we are strapping her up. So I was like, it's like 3 minutes. I was like, okay, I'm starting the timer. Tell me when it starts. And we're like less than 3 minutes. And so we get in, and I was like, y'all need a driver? I was like, I told the driver, I was like, I need a driver. I need somebody to ride in, to drive us in. And so he starts going, and I could tell lights and sirens going on. He's stopping at stoplights, and I'm like, I'm knocking on the window. Do not stop. You need to go. We need to get there. And so Cody, the brand new medic who was back there with me, I was sitting at the head of the cot, I was talking to the lady. And so I got an OB kit, and I threw it to him. He looks and he goes, what do you want me to do? Like whispering. And I was like, better get ready. You're going to catch this baby. And he's like, me? I've never done this. No better time to learn than today, buddy. And and stuff like that. When you get somebody who's brand new, like it seems like not fair to throw them to the fire, throw them to the wolves like that. But you got to have a first of everything.
It's a basic skill.
It is. Catching a baby is a basic skill. It's not even a paramedic skill. Yeah. You're right. So let me ask you this. You did this for almost 20 years. You were doing the church here at this church, full-time or part-time as a pastor, full-time. And there's no part-time ministry because when you look at the events that we do and the time we still do mission trips, we still do church, we still do everything like a full-time pastor. In our church, even before you were full-time this time last year, we had as many people as all the full-time church pastor-led churches here in town anyway, but we're all part-time. How did you balance that? Church, family, firefighting?
Well, the honest answer is not well. Because the problem is you look at all that and whatever is on the top of your list, you're going to invest more than that than everything else. And so starting young, my family, Jaden, when he was young, we were going out to see Christine's mom before she passed away. And he flat up asked me, he goes, Dad, why do you love the church more than you? And so basically that was a flag saying that I was investing way too much time in the church. And I know that sounds terrible, but what it was is my family had come secondary to the church. And then when I got in the fire service and started doing all my promotions and different career choices in there, the church suffered. The office suffered. And so I did not balance it well. I wish there was a good answer to say, you need to balance this well. But I didn't even take care of myself. It was more about making sure I made people happy in all these areas. And my family suffered because of it. I mean, I tried to make every football game, tried to make all the events that I could for the boys. And I didn't always, I missed, of course, as a fire service, you miss out on a lot of day and a lot of time. Missed out on a lot of church activities. We still plan church activities, and they went on with or without you. And so I think God was gearing me up because even right now it's just the church and the family. But this summer, I mean, it's all been church, church, church. But thankfully, through all that, the kids, for the most part, have been a part of that, and so it's much easier to balance. But I still think there's one thing in there is your personal time, your own quiet time, your own spiritual time. Because to be honest with you, if you look at all three of those, my personal quiet time suffered a lot. And so now I can tell you that I'm in a healthier situation, not just because I'm going back and getting my master's, but just because I've learned to balance that and just say, I'm not coming into the office. I'm going to go take care of family. I'm going to do this. And so it's one of those things you just look at your priorities. What's important to you? What's valuable to you? And usually what happens is the others end up suffering. Outside, you may not be able to see that. looking in, you may go, man, how's he do all? Not well, because I would focus on things that was important. Like especially when I was in Anna and we were building the new fire station at Station One. My days off I'd be in Anna because that was important to me. I should have been here at the church. I should have been taking care of the community. I should have been doing things that I was called to do. And that truly is my heart, is called to take care of the community and take care of our family. It's more important because being from Bonham, I'm not like a typical pastor that I'm not from there. I have investments here. I have family. I have a lot of things. And so for me, it's just figuring that balance out and stepping back sometimes. The cool thing is especially when I was in Bonham, they gave you 24-hour shifts for days off instead of like most cities, or you only get 12s. And so I was able to link up so many days, and I could do all my church stuff. Once I got to the Metroplex area, it was a little bit more challenging. I depended more on staff of the church to make sure to take care of some of the things I wasn't able to do. That's what made it advantage when we on different shifts, because I was able to throw a lot of things at you that should have been my responsibility.
Yeah, but I enjoy like getting to preach. I enjoy that, but I really like when people complain to say, "Hey, I'm the youth pastor." To like I like the responsibility of preaching, but I don't want the rest of it. So I'll put that back on you. So I enjoy the way that I enjoy the way that that's worked out, the way that we're able to.
It's been fun though. And I don't know. Everyone says, "Oh, ministry's fun." Ministry, you look up for it and you enjoy it. I read a book in the first part of this year called "The Joy of Preaching." It's an old book, but it was so good because it just helps you remind every time you step in front of people is how to balance stuff, but also have fun at it, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, get out. And that's where I was in the fire service. It became so political that I wasn't enjoying it, and I was doing more harm to relationships than I was help. So it was best for me to look at something forward where I could use what God had given me and what truly God had called me to. I've just been a Jonah and been running. Even though I was providing for my family and everything, I was totally running from God because I did not want to submit full time.
Well, and I know you were talking a little bit about how finding that balance was so hard and how other things suffered. But I tell guys when they start, and I've done that as well. Been all into the fire service, all into because I have an addictive personality. So when I get into something, I'm all in. But I tell guys when they're new, I'm the team lead for our peer support team, so I get to sit down with every new guy and do a mental health deal, hour-long mental health. I finish in about 45 minutes, and then just let them ask questions. And one of the things I tell every single one of them now, because I didn't do this myself at the beginning, was this can't be your life. Like so many people, the fire service, police service, EMS, being a first responder, being a pastor, your business, your organization, whatever. Like you were talking about earlier about identified yourself, your value is what search you had, what you're able to do, and what your job was. And that can't be your life, though. I tell people, if even if you're not a believer, like I tell people, God is one, has to be one. Everything else stems out of that. Everything else goes so much better when He's one. But family has to come too, and then everything else, fire department, and everything else, or job, career, everything else has to come behind those two things. Because if those two things suffer, you may be a tyrant, you may be worthless, you may be depressed, you may be angry or frustrated, but you're not going to be your best if those two things aren't where they're supposed to be.
Absolutely. And that was me, and I knew that. But it's one of those things is if you want to climb up the chain or do whatever, you had to show that was your number one love. And it wasn't my number one love. The Lord is most definitely. And I think, as we look at that to understand that that's one reason I think we've had tremendous growth here at the church as well, because they've seen that in our staff, that the Lord is our number one love as staff members. And because that they've been able to see that and they got in and they followed in the direction that we're going as a church. Does everybody like it? Does everyone agree with it? Absolutely not. But that's just part of it because not everyone's going to like the leadership style. They're not going to like how you do things. That's just part of it. But allowing that not to be my focus, to truly focus on what God has called us to do and to be. And that's I got to take care of this spiritually as well. And if I'm not doing that, then everything else is going to suffer. And that's what happened is I wasn't taking care of spiritually what I needed to.
A couple more things, and I'll let you get out of here. So Tell me something about the fire service that you think made you a better pastor or better Christian. Something that you learned there that's you've been able to apply to your Christian walk.
I think one of the things that was allowing me to evaluate different leadership styles, because the fire service changed from when I started until I ended my career. And I think that just the different styles and the way we deal with people, um, because both fields, the pastor and the fire service, most people call you at their worst time of their life. I mean, the doors open as a fireman, you're going straight in, or the EMS cot, and then as a pastor, the doors open every time when you go to a family for a death or whatever else is going on. But it taught me the importance of finding value in people and letting people know they're valuable, and demonstrate that no matter if I like them or don't like them, to know that they are valued to your organization, and to bring that, and also how to talk to them. The church is the same way as the fire service. I wasn't a cusser, um, but I could see the way people reacted to the way if you talk to them sternly. I could see the way you talk to them if you just love them. Let's be honest. And the fire service, me, toward the later part of my career, there was females starting to come in. There was a different way I had to talk to a female than there was a guy. There was a different way I could talk to a country boy compared to a city guy. And so it taught me in the church, we use a lot of churchy words, but there's some folks that have never been involved. It taught me how I need to communicate with them to get them to understand what we're going to do. And so it taught me a lot on how to deal with people, and then how that can parallel into the church world as well. But also it allowed me, because I wasn't the head guy, of how I needed to communicate things a little bit better for the rest of my team to follow me. Because if I'm not communicating things clearly, then the rest of the team's not going to follow me in the direction that we need to go. And that's why it's so it's important that when we look at, we teach, equip, and train, empower people, we need to look at all that together, because that's important to get those people ready for the next step in life. And so that's what it taught me a lot.
So one more thing, we talked about the tremendous growth that we've had here at Seventh of Maine Church. And what would you say, just real quickly, what are a couple things that would you say are the recipes for the success that have happened? And we'll say God will give him the glory for the because he's the one who does it, right? He's the one who provides the increase. We can work and work and work and do whatever, but he's the one that ultimately does the real work. But as far as things that we can do, what are the things that we can do that you think have led to the growth that we've experienced?
I think one of them is sticking to the word, God's word, and what He's told us to do. I think one thing He's told us is go out and share the Great Commission. A church that's not sharing the Great Commission is not doing what God's called us to. So to me, that's one of the most important things, is doing what He's called us to. You can lump missions, evangelism, and everything, to me, underneath going out and sharing the Great Commission. And the second thing is, and this is probably from the secular, from the fire service, is how you build your team. It's important to look at your team, because you don't want a bunch of Cody Nelsons. Don't want a bunch of Cody Riches or David Eames. And so the way we built our team is that we built with people that have very good strengths in certain areas, and some that have weak areas. And so building that team, because if we can get along as a staff and as leadership, the church is going to see that and they're going to follow you. If we're dysfunctional, the church is going to be dysfunctional. So I think that's two major things to look at the church. And also, how did Jesus set up his leadership? I mean, what a better picture than that right there than he sets up for us in John chapter 10, talking about the good shepherd, and the way he set that up to follow that is such a great analogy and a way for us to follow that. And for us, I believe that's what's been one of the key successes here at Seventh of Maine. Do I think we're done? No, I don't think we're done. I think it just depends on how we as a staff bring things forward and be as transparent as possible. If we're going to hide things, people aren't going to trust you. So that's a huge thing for people to follow you. Is, do they trust you? If they don't trust you, then you're going to have problems on the floor.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today, for taking time to, whatever, almost an hour to sit here and visit with us and talk about things going on at Seventh of Maine, and your story of how God led you here. I want you to know I appreciate you, because, like I said, the two things that I'm knowledgeable about career wise, but I've done other little side gigs over the years, but are fire and EMS and pastoring. And I've been here serving with you 15 years. So I think over half of my ministry time has been here with you. So that you've influenced that for sure. But I would have never gotten to the fire service if it wasn't for you either. And I think God's blessed me in that and been able to use me in that. And looking at it 14, 15 years ago, I was like, no way, no way that ever happened. Now I'm looking back going, I can't see my life with that not being a part of it, So I want to thank you for your influence on me and for your friendship, for you and your family. Y'all are one of the things I love about our church, I love about our staff is I don't feel like I say that we're family. I mean, I feel like we're not just coworkers or church members. I feel like you guys are as much as as much as blood family that we have. So thank you again for being here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.